The goal of this video is to give you a general feel for persuasive writing, to help you understand what it takes to write an outstanding persuasive essay so that you can make the best score possible on your end-of-course exam. Anytime you receive a rubric for a project or a writing assignment or any kind of assignment, the most important thing you can do is pay attention to that rubric. That's the key that's going to tell you how the person is going to grade what you're doing. And by knowing what they expect, you can do exactly what you need to do to get the grade you want. Now on your STAR test, the rubric is found in its most basic form in the bulleted list that accompanies your writing prompt. At the bottom of the page, it will remind you, be sure to state your position clearly, provide specific support for your argument, use appropriate organization, choose your words carefully, and edit your writing for grammar, mechanics, and spelling. This is a rubric for a persuasive essay, and that's why it doesn't specify thesis. It says make sure you state your position clearly. Remember, you're taking sides here. You're persuading or convincing somebody that your idea or viewpoint is the best one, and you're providing specific support to back up your side of your argument. When you organize it clearly, and then pick your words carefully and make sure there are no mistakes, you'll write an essay that proves your point and makes it easy to read for your reader. STAR and end-of-course exam essays receive a score of a 1, 2, 3, or a 4. Effective essays are scored with 3s and 4s. A 3 is a satisfactory essay. That means you've done everything right and you clearly understand what it means to write a persuasive essay, how to organize it, and how to support your argument with clear evidence. An accomplished essay receives a 4. This means that you did everything exceptionally well. You are extremely precise in your words, you probably worded it in an interesting way, and you edited your writing so that the grammar, mechanics, and spelling actually make it easier for the reader to follow what it is you have to say. A basic understanding means that you're getting the general idea of how to do this, but you still have some growth to do. And a 1 is a limited response. In that case, maybe you didn't really understand how to write a persuasive essay, and some of your errors distracted and made it very challenging for someone to follow what it was you have to say. Your goal is to get at least a 3 on this piece of writing. Let's take a look at this student essay example. Remember that as you are reading through this essay with me, you need to ask yourself these questions. Is the topic interesting? Is there a thesis with a clear position? Does the writer support the position? Does the writer stay on the topic? Is the writing organized? And is the grammar okay? Keep those questions in mind and let's read together. A large city is a very invigorating place, with never a dull moment. Full of many wonders and sources of entertainment, a large city is obviously a much better place to live than a small town. A large city is filled to the rim with places to go and people to see. You can do just about anything in a city, from seeing a play to eating at a 5-star restaurant. The sky is the limit. On top of that, there are literally millions of people in large cities, so every day you can meet someone new and make a new friend. Living in a large city, you will almost never be bored. There is always something new to see, eat, and learn. Cities like New York are so full of amusing places to visit that if you wanted to eat out at every single restaurant in the city, it would take you over 300 years if you went to one restaurant a day, of course. Obviously, a city is much more of a fun, exciting place to live than a small town. Don't get me wrong. If you want to be dull, boring, or maybe retire, a small town would be an ideal place for you to live. But if you are fun, outgoing, or just awesome, a large city would be the best place for you to live. Let's ask ourselves those questions again. Is the topic interesting? I know you might not really care about the topic of a large city or a small town, but it sounds to me like probably that's the topic that the state gave them. So let's not judge them for that. Is the way the student chose to write about this interesting? The position that student took? Is there a thesis with a clear position? Did this student take a stance about whether a large city or a small town is better? Does the writer support the position? Is there evidence in there to back up only one side of this argument? Does the writer stay on topic? Or does the writer drift off onto something else unrelated? Is the writing organized? Can you follow it? Is it clearly broken up into sections that make sense? And is the grammar okay? Or were there distracting things in it that made it hard for us to read? Well, the graders from the state gave this a score point of a 3, meaning that it was a really pretty good essay. It was satisfactory. Let's see what they had to say about it. Is the topic interesting? Yes, the tone and specific details are engaging. Is there a thesis with a clear position? Yes. Full of many wonders and sources of entertainment, a large city is obviously a much better place to live than a small town. Does the writer support the position? Yes. The writer gives specific examples, seeing a play, eating at a 5-star restaurant, the millions of people in cities like New York that are available to meet, to support the idea that cities are better because they are more fun and exciting. Does the writer stay on topic? Is the writing organized? Yes. The writer establishes this position in the first paragraph. Large cities are entertaining. The following paragraphs provide examples explaining how and why large cities are entertaining. The ideas are related and progress smoothly from one to another. Is the grammar okay? Yes. There are some mild punctuation and spelling errors, but nothing that interferes with the meaning of the essay. The sentence types are adequately varied. Overall, the focus, support, and command of conventions represents a satisfactory writing performance, earning this paper a score point of a 3. Let's look at a second essay and see how this student did writing on the same topic. Follow along with me as I read. It would be better to live in a large city because there are more places to go to and get to see more places. If you lived in a small town, you would just see just a few places every day. And I like to do more stuff and see more and different things, but in a small town you can't do that. In a big town, there are many different kinds of places you can go to, like an amusement park and Six Flags and more, but at a small town, you probably have one park to go to and have to ride the rides there over and over and over again, which would get insanely boring. I would recommend anyone to go live in a big city due to more things to do and more places to eat, play, and have a blast. Using our questions, let's see what we think about this essay. Is the topic interesting? Did this student write about it in a way that is engaging and makes us want to read more? Were the ideas thoughtful and intriguing? Is there a thesis with a clear position? Now, a thesis statement is going to tell us whether we should live in a small town or a big city. Can you find a sentence that does that? Does the writer support the position? So if there is a stance in the thesis, does the writer give information and evidence to back up that idea? Does the writer stay on the topic? In this case, does this essay have one train of thought, or does it drift off into other subject matters that are maybe not relevant to the topic at hand? Is the writing organized? Is it easy to follow? Is it clearly paragraphed? Is it written in a way that makes us move from one idea to the next smoothly? And is the grammar okay? Does this student seem to have a good understanding of spelling, punctuation, capitalization, and grammar? Or are there errors that cause this to be challenging for us to read? What kind of score would you give this? Accomplished? Satisfactory? Basic? Or limited? The graders from the state gave this a score of 0.2, basic. Let's see why. Is the topic interesting? They said no. The essay lacks interesting details and is repetitive. Is there a thesis with a clear position? Somewhat. Well, there is a thesis. It would be better to live in a large city because there are more places to go to and get to see more places. But the position is vague and not clearly written. Does the writer support the position? Somewhat. The support is vague in general. See a few places. I like to do more stuff. The mention of the rides at Six Flags is not as clear as it needs to be. The ideas need deeper development and more specific details. Does the writer stay on topic? Is the writing organized? Yes, the essay has a general idea, more places to go in a large city, and includes general evidence to support it. However, the information is repetitive. Is the grammar okay? No. There are several grammatical errors that make the essay more difficult to understand. Overall, the unconvincing argument and support represents a basic writing performance, giving this a score point of 2. It would be okay to write about Six Flags and give examples like that, but just make sure you talk about specific rides. Talk about why that's more fun. Don't use words like things and stuff, and proofread carefully. Making sure that your thesis is good is the key, however, to making an outstanding persuasive essay. Now it's time for you to practice on your own scoring some of these essays. Remember, you can give a score of a 4 for an essay you think is accomplished, a 3 if it's satisfactory, a 2 if it's basic, and a 1 if the writing is limited. Here's sample number 1. Remember to look at the questions that are on the right side of the screen to help you as you evaluate this essay. I think I would rather live in a small town because it would be more peaceful. In a small town, everyone would know everyone, so you would have a lot of friends. Another reason I would rather live in a small town is because everything goes at a slower pace. It doesn't have all the excitement of the city, so you can relax. The last reason I would rather live in a small town, because there is less violence, because everyone is friends and your neighbors are like family. Everyone helps each other. Another reason is because there's trees and clean air, not like the city, where the only thing you can see is building after building. And those are the reasons I would rather live in a small town. Take a look at those questions and give it a score. 1, 2, 3, or 4. The graders from the state gave this essay a score of a 2. The writing in this case is kind of basic in its development. Yes, it does attempt to be persuasive, but once again, the examples are very vague, there are some errors, and there's actually a lot of repetition. Nothing is developed in any kind of elaborate manner, and though we do get the idea that the small town is preferable to the large city, the reasons are pretty vague, pretty basic. So this would be scored a 2. Let's try another. Sample number 2. Same procedure as before. Use those questions on the right side to help you determine what kind of score you would give this essay. It's better to live in a big city because opportunities are endless in the career you want to pursue. For example, in the movie Coyote Ugly, the main character leaves her small town to pursue her career as a singer. She leaves to New York. While there, she finds out that getting her career started is harder than what she had imagined. Eventually, she gets a job at a local bar as a singer. It wasn't what she had hoped for, but it was an opportunity she wouldn't have received in her small town. Another example is the show Dance Academy. Tara, the main character, wants to be a professional ballerina. This dream is bigger than the population of her small town, so she auditions for the dance academy in the capital of Australia. They accept her, and she leaves her small town. The opportunities in the big city makes her dream of a career in dance one step closer. In conclusion, living in a big city is better because opportunities are available for whatever career you want to achieve. Whether it's being a singer, dancer, CEO, actress, athlete, or engineer, the opportunities are endless. Now it's time for you to look at those questions and give it a score. If you need more time, pause this video. Have you got your answer? The score that this was given by the state is a 3. This was a satisfactory essay. I think probably this essay's biggest strength is its details. Notice that this writer didn't just give small examples, but the writer elaborated, giving and clearly explaining why the example supported the idea that it's better to live in a big city. The focus in the thesis on careers helped to give this essay some specificity that made it move above the average essay. There were some errors in proofreading and a handful of grammar errors, but they were minor and they didn't detract from the overall quality. So that's why I think this received a score of a 3. This is sample number 3. Use those questions on the right to help you score this with a 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's better to live in a small town because in larger cities there is lots of crime and criminals and people could kidnap you easily. In smaller cities, there is hardly any crime and people won't kidnap you. Also, in bigger cities, you don't know hardly anyone because there is too many people and you have to spend lots of money on gas because the cities are too big. In smaller cities, there isn't that many people, so you could know everyone in the town. And in smaller cities, you don't have to spend lots of money on gas because the city is small. Look again at those questions on the right and come up with your score. This one received a score of a 1. A limited writing performance. Here are some of the reasons I suspect that occurred. First of all, the topic is not that interesting. There weren't any examples that were fascinating, and the author seemed to be going through this in a pretty perfunctory or routine way. I don't think the author was even interested in what he or she was saying. Is there a thesis with a clear position? Yes, sort of. It does say it's better to live in a small town than larger cities because there's lots of crime. However, pretty soon in the essay, the writer's not talking about crime at all. The writer's talking now about spending money on gas and about knowing people in the cities. Does the writer support the position? There are some very vague examples, but certainly elaboration was at a minimal level. So in this case, it's not really very much of an essay as much as kind of a listing of ideas. Does the writer stay on topic? Well, not if the topic is crime and criminals, because pretty soon the author's talking about everything but that topic. Is the writing organized? Not so much. It's one big paragraph, and it rambles on and on. And is the grammar okay? There were some pretty significant errors that made it sound as if this writer didn't really know what he or she was talking about, and in some places it was even a little hard to follow. Proofreading and some more correct subject-verb agreement would certainly have helped. That's why this essay received a 1. Here's the last sample, sample number 4. Let's see how you do scoring this one using those questions on the right as a guide. I've had the benefit of experiencing both a large city and a small town. If given a choice between the two, hands down, I'd choose the city any day. Big cities provide invaluable opportunities that small town can't match to any degree. In cities, there is always something to do. When boredom attacks, a person is never very far from some sort of park, movie theater, diner, something to waste time. The mass of things around you in a city is great. You can always rely on a city to give you what you want. In a small town, you can barely rely on a grocery store to supply decent out-of-season fruit. The people are the seller, though. In a city, you meet more people in a lifetime than you could every count. Each one different, too. Mean, nice, old, young, interesting, dull. They each teach you a little something about the world, and they each teach you a little more about yourself. I didn't know how much I valued books until a man on a bus challenged their worth. That interaction taught me about a new side of life. Small towns have this supposed charm, but I think cities have a charm, a better charm, all their own. They're a place to enjoy yourself and bask in the glory of life and all it entails. Take a moment to look at those questions and score this essay on your own. If you're like the graders from the state, you gave this one a score of a 4. That's the top score you can get. Is the topic interesting? Well, I do definitely think this writer was interested in what he or she had to say and wrote about it with really great details. The writing was lively and had great voice, which made me interested in what the writer had to say. Is there a thesis with a clear position? Sure. Big cities provide invaluable opportunities that small towns can't match to any degree. Does the writer support the position? Absolutely. We have outstanding examples in here that are extremely specific. Every one of the examples could paint a little picture in the mind of the reader. So certainly, the convincing part of the argument happened because of the strong examples. Does the writer stay on topic? Yes, indeed. This writer sticks to the point that big cities are better than small towns, giving examples about both to back up the main point. Is the writing organized? I love the way this writer used clear paragraphing and some transitions that were subtle but effective to move the reader from one idea to the next. Every sentence flowed from one to another in a way that made this effortless to read. Is the grammar okay? Certainly. There were some errors. A couple of times there were some wrong word choices, which were probably just simple mistakes. But overall, it was clear that this writer knows how to use English in a way that affects the reader and actually enhances the quality of the reading experience. This essay uses effective use of dashes in order to insert ideas in a way that made the writing pretty interesting to read. All in all, this was an outstanding essay and one extremely deserving of a score of 4. Now you should have a general feel for persuasive writing and for what's expected of you when you try it on your own. Remember that using words can be a powerful way to persuade people that your ideas are correct and that they should listen to you. And you know, it's okay to have fun while you're doing it too. Your reader will enjoy it if you've become invested in what you have to say and you say it in a way that is engaging and effective and interesting to read. Good luck in your writing and happy persuading.